been doing a lot of like analyzing things that like bad things happening and going, well, why is there such a focus on this specific thing, whatever it is, and going, clearly it's hell's response to whatever heaven is doing. It's not the other way around of like, well, what's God going to do? And I think specifically the issue of a lot of millennials have left the church, right? There are a lot of millennials, and as a result, a lot of Gen Z, but a lot of millennials who've left the church, a lot of millennials who are no longer following the Lord. And now that I'm looking at that, I'm like, that very well may be a hijacking of something that God himself is prompting within the hearts of people, is turning them away from finding a solution within a singular building and going, and obviously Satan is trying to hijack that and going like, sending them down all these wayward paths. But it goes along with what you're talking about, Harmony, of I really do believe that the desire to look beyond the church walls and go like, I'm so passionate about Jesus. And honestly too, that was, 15, 20 years ago was a very dangerous ideology to have. But now people are actually getting to that place of like, man, we need to be going out there. We need to be going out and beyond the walls of the church. Yeah. We have to.
Yeah. We have to. We have to. And one of the things the Lord spoke to me about, I've spent a ton of time studying the apostolic age and the age of the church fathers, the 1st and 2nd and 3rd centuries. And one thing the Lord spoke to me as I was studying was, the church began to die when it left the home. It's a hard truth. I don't know that God ever intended us to have nice buildings. I'm not sure that was God's intention. I think what God intended was the transformation of the family into the image of the Trinity, and that a generation of children would be given birth to who would know the Lord because their parents mirrored him to them. I truly believe when the church became a club where people left their homes to go and attend a church, instead of drawing in the lost into their family units, adopting them both naturally and spiritually, bringing them into a kingdom understanding of family, a kingdom understanding of relationship within the walls of the home. When we abandoned God's original design, which was the family, and we began to mirror the world's government instead of God's original design, then we began to see the church die instead of flourish and thrive. What's so interesting about the fivefold ministry is that the fivefold ministry mirrors the family. Every family is called to have an apostle. That's a father. Every family is called to have a prophet. That's the mother. And every family is called to have a passel of evangelists, pastors, and teachers. Those are the children. The fivefold ministry mirrors the family because the church is meant to mirror the family, not the other way around. As I've said many times, God did not create the church in the Garden of Eden to reflect the Trinity. He created the family. So what do we need to do? We need to go back to God's original design. And if you look at the book of Acts, what you see is that the church met in homes. And more often than not, those home churches were pastored by women. Hello. There was a powerhouse woman in Philippi. Her name was Lydia. And she was the first European to get saved. And directly after her salvation, she invited the men of God to come and stay in her home. And then they were arrested. Now, by the time those men of God came out of prison, there was an entire church in Lydia's home. How do you think that happened? That mighty woman of God gathered those who were her family and her friends, and she preached the gospel she knew to them, a simple word that she had received from Paul and Silas on the banks of the river in Philippi. She spread to her family, her husband, her children, her cousins, her aunts, her uncles, until the house was filled with the church. So that when Paul and Silas came out of the prison, they already had a church that was ready to receive them. That was the work of one woman. Her name was Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the way that God intended the church to operate. It was meant to be birthed out of the home and spread across the earth. Home fire after home fire after home fire would be started and cultivated, and this would transform cultures.